Avinu Malkeinu Ein lanu melech Ein lanu melech Ela ata Avinu Malkeinu Ein lanu melech Ein lanu melech Ela ata Ay ladam Ay Okay, I believe we're on page 307, right?
I think 300
or 308, 308, what?
307, you're right.
No, we did that. There's 308.
No, we just did the first two paragraphs.
And what, on 307?
I think we just did the first.
Okay, right. Okay, so we're going to start at Liyot Yachol HaKol.
That's what the book is.
What?
Where are we starting from?
This is teachings of Rav Shlomo.
Okay.
And teachings where he gave a number of classes on Rav Kook's Lights of Repentance, which is available in English, by the way. Okay, so the 307. You can stay there. It's a woman should sit over here. What does it mean, false 5?
Oh, my shirt?
Yeah.
What's a band?
Oh.
Band name. Yeah, his name's Ben Falls.
I see. That is the class to do with, like, cards or something like that. Okay, so we started this piece yesterday, and a big aspect of tshuva is repentance. A big aspect of tshuva is that you need to believe that you can actually change. If you don't believe that you can change, then you're stuck, right? So, and I don't know if I could say most people or what percentage of people, but for sure a large chunk of the human race doesn't believe that people could change. Like how many people believe that they can actually be peace? Bernie, you shut the door, yeah? People believe that you can have not war, you can end the war, an actual peace, like, to bury the hatchet type of thing, and to really, that's already a whole other madriga. Okay, so we learned that, that you really need to be able to believe that you can, really need to believe that you can actually change, that people can change. And then, now what he's getting at is that to believe in transformation. So he says, V'od davar, we're starting this piece again, Pnina. V'od davar, and further, אתם חושבים שהמים הפכו ליבשה? So he was talking about that at the time of the Exodus, right? You getting your exercise, Bernie? We should charge you just for the exercise. Okay, so the book's ready for you. Have a seat. Okay, you don't look at Facebook, because we did announce on Facebook that it wasn't going to be a class yesterday.
Oh, I didn't see it. Sorry.
It's okay. No, nothing to apologize for. I got to say hello to you. Okay. So, page 307. Yeah. So he says like this. So we said that one of the things about the splitting of the sea, right? One of the lessons about the splitting of the sea, right, is that the water turned into dry land. Right? In other words, and in fact, every day, part of the daily prayer is Az Yashir Moshe, right? We sing the song, we say the song of the sea every single day. Why? So Shlomo once said, because the truth of the matter is that you have to cross the sea who knows how many times a day. Right? How many times a day does it happen that that you find yourself in a situation that you need to do something that can't do that? It's like goes against my grain. It goes against what I'm like, right? How many times a day do you feel that somebody is really irking you, and you got to so to speak split the sea, not to react in the way that you would otherwise react, right? So the splitting of the sea is something that everything, not just the splitting of the sea, everything in the Torah is daily reality in one way or another. Okay? So the splitting of the sea is daily reality. Understand? Hashem split the sea so that we can get away from Egypt, so that we can to get away from the Egyptians, and in other words, in our own personal lives, to achieve your personal freedom, don't say, I can't do this. It's not my nature to do this. It might not be your nature, but maybe it should be. Right? Okay. So she says, V'od davar, and furthermore, Atem choshvim shamayim hafchu liyabasha? Do you think that the water actually turned to dry land? Lo chen hadavar. That's not exactly what happened. Hamayim nisharu mayim. The water remained water. V'afal p.14, and nevertheless, Am Yisrael avar b'tocham, the people of Israel went through the water. Kemo shekatuv, v'bnei Yisrael halchu bayabasha b'toch hayam. It says in the verse, it says that we were walking on the dry land within the sea. So, one interpretation is that the simplest interpretation is that right, there were two walls of water, right, and in between it was dry land, right? Another interpretation is that there were these tunnels within the water, and each tribe had its particular tunnel, okay? And inside the tunnel, the earth was dry. Not under the ground, but rather just within the water, like the tunnels had formed. Now, Rav Shlomo gives another interpretation. He says, "Pitom hamayim hevinu." Suddenly, the water understood. She'ein ze muchach shekol mi shemeniach raglo al hamayim yitba. It doesn't have to be that anybody that puts his foot into the water should drown. Hamayim echlitu. The waters decided, "Anachnu mishtanim, we're changing. Yivgu v'lo titzchachtu." Walk through the water and you won't regret. Anachnu niyeh kashim ke'eben. We're going to be solid like a stone. Okay? So whichever way you want to interpret the miracle, right? There are different interpretations. So Rav Shlomo says, "B'milim acherot," in different words, Borei olam lo rotze shetiyeh mishu acher. God doesn't want you to be somebody else. This is an important question. This is an important issue. Who are you? He said, besides all the psychology of nature versus nurture, right? But it's not really nature versus nurture. You know what I mean by nature versus nurture? Mm-hmm. There's certain things that it's your nature. There's certain things that you do because you were nurtured. You were taught to be that way, right? But the truth is that it's both. There is, it's very hard to say, oh, this is it only because it's your nature, or this is only because you were nurtured this particular way. It's basically both, okay? So, but the reality is that, for example, we know that people born under different zodiac signs have certain different characteristics, right? There's a guy that made a fortune of money writing a book, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Is that the way it goes, or is it the other way around? It doesn't make a difference. Yeah.
John Gray.
Yeah. Okay. And there are differences. Men are wired differently than women. Despite the feminist movement, I don't think the feminist movement claims that men are not wired differently from women, or women aren't wired differently from men. You got to keep that in mind. It's an old thing. Now, it doesn't, like, for example, in the Sfirot, right? So, in the 7 lower Sfirot of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, right? Chesed is this. You lived in Tzfat long enough to know what I mean by the word Sfirot. The mystical, right? The attributes, but okay. So it's an acceptable word for Sfirot. Okay. So men are considered to be Chesed, or Chesed is a masculine Sfira, the attribute of kindness and giving. And women are wired Gevura, severity. Okay?
Shouldn't it be the other way around?
See, that's right away. I knew somebody's going to ask the question. Of course, you have the same question?
No.
No, you just accept it naturally.
Like, yeah, I understand.
It makes sense to you, right? The only question that now look at the male body versus the female body. Okay, you'll see right away that the male's aspect is chesed, okay, and the woman's is gevura. I'll explain in a second. But first of all, I just want to say, don't think that men are only chesed, or that women are only gevura. We have both aspects in our personality. It's not like you have this sphere and you have that sphere. We have all 7 of the spherot. Okay, but the dominant, the chesed is giving. Okay? Now let's take a look at reproduction. The male provides the seeds. Okay? The male contributes the seeds, right? What does the woman do? The woman takes one seed and into a very gevuridic environment, a very protective, severe environment. When I say severe, what I mean is like very strict temperature control, etc., etc. Is particular into her womb, and there, in a very gevuridic environment, which operates by very specific laws of nature, there the fetus develops and the child gets and the child is born. Okay? And that shows you the relationship between chesed and gevurah, by the way. Bless you. Chesed without gevurah doesn't produce anything, and gevurah without chesed doesn't produce anything. Okay? But still, chesed without gevurah is just wasted seeds, and gevurah without chesed doesn't develop. Okay? So some people, we're going back to what we're talking about over here. Some people by nature are more chesed-like. Some people by their nature are more gevurah-like. Some people by nature are more tiferet. Okay? Now, there's some people by nature have a tendency to be very angry. The Gemara talks about that. They say such a person should become a shochet or a moel. Okay? And in other words, channel that energy into a positive way. Okay? So the Torah, what Shlomo is saying is, Hashem is not asking you not to be what you are. It's like, for example, you tell somebody whose temper is flaring up all the time, cool it, right? He says, but that's me. Okay, so should this person destroy that part of his personality? Or should this person learn how to use it in righteous indignation? Right? This morning, this fellow that I sit near him in shul, he tells me this story about there was this man in Meir Shor, and he suffered a lot. I don't know what the story is, but like for 40 years, I don't know, he had been married, and then his wife somehow disappeared. I don't know. I don't know what the story is. But he was living alone and in poverty and everything. And one morning, he spoke to somebody during Chazor Sashatz, while the Chazan was repeating the Amidah. Right? In Shulchan Aruch it says that you're not allowed to speak during that time. You have to listen to the recitation of the Amidah. And it says that if somebody does speak, go arimbo, you sort of tell him off, So this man, this Reb David Breslover was his name. One day he spoke to somebody during the repetition of the Amidah. So the Yid comes over and starts screaming at him, "Go arimbo, you got to tell the guy off." So he said to him after davening, he says, "For 40 years, you never said hello to me or goodbye to me. You never asked me how I'm doing, right? The one time that you talked to me, so you came to scream at me because I spoke during the repetition of the Amidah, right? But in any case, right? Like, that's how some people like that's their Yiddishkeit, like to scream at somebody. But never.
People who don't believe in change.
Okay. In any case, but the thing is, how many people who get angry if you step on their toe have true righteous indignation? You know what I mean by righteous indignation? You know what we mean by that? No? So why don't you ask? Should I
I
ask?
think I get it. It's like no dignity, right?
No.
It's like entitlement.
Like
Righteous indignation?
kind of
No.
righteous kind of stuff.
For a good cause.
Yeah.
If, for example, if you know that somebody in your neighborhood is being abusive,
Degrading someone.
beating their children. Righteous indignation is you're indignant about it and you're going to do something about it. Right? In other words, you're taking that energy of anger, right? But instead of being angry, but because of something that you did to me, it's the same energy that is propelling you to do something positive. That's righteous indignation. You have no that you don't. What's an angry person? An angry person is basically intolerant. So what are you intolerant about? Well, be intolerant about something that you should be intolerant about. Don't block him with you the way you're sitting. I want to see him.
I'm sorry, I didn't know I was blocking.
And
That's
I'm
the
just telling
Navi.
Right?
The Naviim did that a lot.
The prophets were like that. That's true. That's right.
There's a difference between speaking as a messenger of God.
But so it doesn't mean that so how you're going to speak or whatever. That's something else. But for example, the Navi speaks about how there were these horrible crimes being committed in Yerushalayim. Okay, and the Gemara tells us that in reality it wasn't such a widespread thing. When the Navi is screaming about that somebody was murdered, right? Doesn't mean that there was murder going on in the streets all the time. One person could have been murdered. I heard a story about this rabbi, this Rosh Yeshiva, was like running like a madman in the street, and somebody asks him, like, what are you running from? So he says, somebody was murdered in the Beis Medrash. So the guy goes to the shul, and he sees everybody's like going around their business like usual. So he says, was somebody murdered over here? So they say, no. So he goes to the Rosh Yeshiva, he says, nobody got murdered. So he says, somebody was embarrassed in public. Right? So if somebody has righteous indignation, like you would react to it no less than you would react to a murder. Let me ask you a question. You're sitting in shul, somebody comes and sits down next to you. The guy's a gunslinger, you know what that is, yeah. Good old Western shootouts, right? Murderer. You're gonna get up and change your seats? No. Somebody comes and sits down next to you and the guy speaks Lashon Hara, slander. You're gonna get up and change your seats? Yeah. You would. Most people, no. Right? Which is worse, Lashon Hara or murder? The word says Lashon Hara is worse than Gilui Arayis, Shfichus Damim, and Avodah Zorah, all three put together. Okay? So, if that means that you haven't yet gotten to the level of righteous indignation. Okay? Righteous indignation is like, now, so going back to what we're talking about, Hashem is not asking that you change to be something that you're not. Okay? But Borei Olam רוצה ממך שתוכל אם צריך להיות הכל. But there are times when Hashem is asking you to do something that might be completely against your nature, but right now it's necessary, do it. You can turn on the fan if you want to. Okay. Number one or two. I think number one is good. No, number one. No, good. If you turn on the red one, it'll circulate. That's right. Okay, good. But there are times that in other words, don't say I can't. Don't say I can't. Understand? It doesn't fit my personality. Okay, so you don't want to, maybe, right? Right? What was that famous quote from Bialik? Ain't about Omeid b'fnei haratzon. Nothing stands in the way of your will. Right? There's a story that one of the early Hasidic masters, the Chernobyl, I think it's the story with the Chernobyl, and he was by, or maybe it was with Hillel Parashah, was by the Chernobyl, one of them was by the other, and he was asked for something, to do something, and he says, I can't. And then he went on his way. So on his way, there was this Russian peasant whose wagon was stuck in the mud. And he says, hey, you, Yid, come help me push the wagon out. This guy's a rabbi and everything, and so he says, I can't. So the Russian peasant gets off the wagon, and he starts beating him. He says, you can't? You don't want to. And he realized that, that this was all min hashamayim, that he should get this lesson of it was wrong for him to say, I can't. Right? A lot of times when you say, I don't, or like one of the phrases in modern Hebrew that I can't stand, En li koach. What a bunch of baloney. Say, I don't want to. Don't say En li koach. You heard En li koach? I don't have the strength to
It's an
do it.
idiom.
Huh?
It's an idiom.
It's an idiom, right?
The
But-
question is, wouldn't it insult someone or hurt someone's feeling if you say straightforward, I don't want to, or no, I'm not going to help you for some reason or another, instead of saying I can't?
But don't tell a lie.
Saying I can't is telling a
En li
lie.
koach is a lie.
Right, but saying I can't
If you
is
don't
telling
have
a lie.
if you don't want to, to say I'm sorry, I'm not such a big tzaddik, I don't want to.
Right, but also saying I can't,
That could just go worse for you in general. Like that.
saying I can't means you're telling a lie, because there's nothing that's stopping you from doing something.
Saying you can say I might not be able to do it right now.
No, you can make time. If
No,
you're
maybe you
hurrying
can.
somewhere.
Maybe you
So
can't. Maybe you can't. I'm saying, but you can't. You can't. I'm not arguing that you always can. But all that Shlomo was saying over here is that there are times when you need to do something, and put aside your like for example, that there are people that are so locked into their schedule. Okay. Right now it's 101, right? And somebody comes and is banging on the door and says, like, I need a glass of water. And I say, no, right now I'm teaching. Come back at 1:30. We say, don't be locked in. Don't be an idiot. In other words, that there's a time that in other words, don't say that you don't say that you can't when you need to. Okay.
Is there such a thing as a white lie?
People do it all the time. I mean, is there such a thing? You mean, is there such a thing as when it's permitted? That's what you want to know.
No.
There are.
If somebody says
There are
Push
three
the wagon out.
things that we're allowed to tell a lie. But like for example, you ate at somebody's house, and somebody else comes and asks you, so do they serve a lot of food? So you're not allowed to. You don't have to say. You had a great meal. You don't have to tell the other person. Okay.
so there is a time.
There are times. There are times. I'm saying there are times. Yes, I didn't say that there aren't times. Okay. There's a story that's a Yiddish folk tale about this this schlepper who goes from town to town, and he has a lot of experience. So he goes over to a Yid on Friday morning. He says, "Can I be your guest for the Shabbos meals?" He says, "Yeah." So then later in the afternoon, they're in the mikveh, and this schlepper is like, he knows that not everywhere that he goes for a meal is he going to get a good meal. So he prepares himself in advance. He finds out about the host. So he goes over. He sees this guy, all soaped up, and he says, "Rabbi, do you know so and so? This Moshe, the shoemaker?" So he says, "Yeah." Now he didn't recognize this. This was the guy who was going to be his host. So he says, "Oh, good. I'm supposed to eat at his house tonight. Tell me, do they serve well? Do they serve a nice amount of food?" He says, "It's a good thing you asked me." He says, "Listen, take my advice. If they offer you challah and more challah and more challah, when they're serving the fish, ask for a lot of fish sauce and dip a lot of challah into it and eat a lot of challah. And then when they serve the soup, dip a lot of challah into that and eat a lot of challah. Because when it comes to the chicken or the meat, there ain't going to be much." Somebody's at the door. It might be Rabari, I'm not sure. Oh, it's okay, Bernie, it's Rabari. Bernie, it's okay. So this poor shepherd figures, I'm ready for this meal tonight. We come, they make kiddush. Would you like some more fish sauce? Yeah. There's one some more challah. Yeah, challah was cheap.
Did he
No,
recognize
he didn't
when he got
recognize. The host recognized him, but he didn't recognize the host. Would you like some, have some soup? You want some challah to dunk in your soup? Oh yeah. And he's mamish, by the time they finish with the chicken soup, he's bloated already. And then they bring out a nice big platter of chicken and meat. But he can't do it anymore. And he says, "That guy in the mikveh, he should, starts cursing him out." So then the guy says, "You taught me a lesson. You shouldn't talk Lashon Hara against yourself either." But but in any case, so you're not actually supposed to report to another person, like how well they serve their guests, because then they might all of a sudden be inundated. When one Shabbos I was walking home from shul, inundated with a horde of people are going to come to eat by them, and beyond what they're capable of. One Shabbos morning, it actually happened. I was coming home from shul, and there were a group of birthright students looking for an address, and so I knew these people that they're going to, and they asked me. So somebody asked me, do they serve a nice meal? I told them, what kind of question is that? What kind of question is that? You're invited to somebody's house and you're asking in advance, what kind of. I told them out.
Are you not going to go if they don't serve a nice meal?
No, not because of that.
Not
Not if you're not going to go. They're hosting you, and you're asking if it's going to be good enough for you. Well, when's the last time you hosted somebody? Chutzpah. Anyway, so the point over here is that, right? וזהו מה שכתוב וישמע יתרו. Bernie, you're going to have to charge us for this exercise class.
I offered to switch places. Well, for the first topic.
Nuria, come all the way up here. Shalom Aleichem. Dr. Nuria. She's in medical school now.
So when
Okay.
she graduates, she'll be able to stay at thing.
So we're. So he says, "V'zeh ma shekatuv vayishma Yitro." It says that Yitro heard. Remember Jethro? Yeah. So it says that vayishma Yitro, and he heard everything that the Egyptians had done to Egypt, and that God took. That Egyptians had done to us, and that God took us out of Egypt. What did he do? What did he do? What did he do? What did Yisro do? What did Jethro do?
Join.
He came and joined the Jewish people. Okay? You stuck them into your iPhone, eh? He came and joined the Jewish people. Right? He converted. According to some opinions, he picked up and he came and joined us without converting. Okay? It doesn't matter. But he came in, he left. He was the Kohen Midian, he was the high priest of Midian, and he picked himself up and he left. Right? So, and he brought Moshe's wife and her 2 children, right?
Would that mean Jews are Jews then?
Definitely. So what happened? So Rashi says, Mashmua Shama Uba. What did he hear that made him come? Okay? Because I think it's only in 2 places in the Torah that you have that phrase, Vayishma. Once it says Vayishma Yitro, and I think the other one is Vayishma Knani. Usually the Torah just says what somebody did. Okay? Here the Torah is saying, he heard, and as a result, he did something. Right? So what did he hear that made him make such a big change in his life? Right? So Rashi says he heard a couple of things, but one of them was Kriyat Yam Suf. He heard about the splitting of the sea. Right? So Rashi actually says he heard about Milchemet Amalek. He heard that the Amalekim attacked us and tried to drive us back to Egypt. And he also heard about the splitting of the sea. Okay? So what did he hear? He heard that there were people who were refusing to allow us to be free. Okay? And he heard that the sea split. Okay? The Masbir HaRabbi Meishbetzer. So the Ishbetzer Rabbi explains, Yitro b'tchila oved avodah zarah haya. Yitro used to be an idol. He used to worship idols. Rachar mikein yada she'Hashem echad. And then he discovered that idolatry is false, but there's really only one God. אבל עדיין לא האמין בעצמו שיוכל להשתנות. But he still didn't have the self-confidence to believe that he can actually change. Okay? In other words, maybe he believed now that there was just one God, but he still wasn't ready yet to give up all the practices. Okay? He couldn't change yet. He couldn't get away from it completely. But when he heard about the splitting of the sea, then he understood that it is possible to change. And he said, just like water can change, I can also change. I can change, and I'm going to go and participate together with the Jews in the wilderness. And this was the aspect of Shuvah, like in the blink of an eye. Right? In other words, he believing that you can change and changing, that's like that's a leap. It's not like a little change, a little bit at a time. That's like a leap of faith.
So when the
Like, for example, the people think that first let's go out for 10 years, we'll date for 10 years, and then we'll figure out if we should get married. You know, people think, oh, if we'll go out for 10 years, for 7 years, for whatever it is, and then we get married, then the chances of the marriage being successful are greater. It's not true. Besides that, even if you've gone out with somebody for 10 years, getting married is still going to be a leap. It's always going to be a leap. So, so there are certain things. It's mamish a leap of faith. It's a leap of faith. If you don't make that leap of faith, then you just remain stuck in whatever it is. Remember we spoke about that magic eye book? You tried it, I think. It's these nonsense, you've seen it? You've seen it?
Yes.
It's these nonsense drawings, okay? Prints.
I have that
And you have to sort of like relax your eyes. Have you seen it? And sort of like look through the page. And all of a sudden, you see have you seen it?
Yes.
You see just successfully?
Yes.
And all of a sudden, it looks like a 3D, looks like three-dimensional, right?
Mhm.
And it like literally looks like you can sort of step into the picture, right?
Yes.
And some people are able to do it, and some people are not able to do it. What's the big difference? Why can some people do it and some people can't do it? The ones who can't do it cannot, you know what I'm talking about? You've seen it? Have you did it successfully?
And cereal boxes back when I was a kid.
They used to have it then back then? Really? Wow. No. Like Mamish, you would have to sort of gaze through it and do it.
Yeah, I had on cereal boxes.
Huh?
I remember it on cereal
Yeah,
boxes.
okay, well, my cereal boxes were much older than you. So the thing is, the brain is the rational brain is a filter, right? The rational brain says, how could something that's two-dimensional possibly be three-dimensional? And if you're stuck there, you can't see it. And even if you do see the 3D image, right? The second that you say, how could this be? What happens?
It disappears.
You lose it. It disappears. Right? So, and what the point that Shlomo is making is that this is the lesson of the splitting of the sea. Don't say you can't. Please say, I'm going to try. Okay. Page 308. And you obviously see the connection between, this is all about tshuva. Don't say I can't do tshuva. The Yetzer Hara keeps on hounding and pounding it away and saying, you're never going to change. The Yetzer Hara always is doing that. And even if you did tshuva on something for 15 years you didn't speak Lashon Hara, for 15 years you didn't have a cheeseburger, or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you get this panic attack, you got to have one, right? And let's say, Chas v'shalom, you crash and you give into it, the Yetzer Hara is going to come and say, you see, you're never going to change. It's not true. We can change. Okay? Rabbi Miyamshina v'Ashiko, Damshina v'Rebbe and the drunkard. Page 308.
The what?
Ashiko, the drunkard. Page 308.
Donkey?
The drunk.
The drunkard.
I have a question about the shinui, the harifying, and like when it's a process. is it equal on the same level if like someone comes and all of a sudden decides to change, or when someone realizes that a change needs to happen and it takes some time to get there?
So the thing is, first of all, even if you do an immediate change, you're going to have to anchor it to give it stability. Okay, understand? But the answer to your question is both. Sometimes like this and sometimes like that. In other words, but the gradual tshuva is based on a realization. That's
Right,
not tshuva keherifayim. You realize that I got to change, right? I weigh 375 pounds. I realize it's just very hard to get around. I got to lose weight.
Right.
Well, so that realization is not. I don't all of a sudden go down to 150 pounds just because I realized that. So I realize it's a realization. Now I got to do the work. Okay, but then there's like I've been insulting people for so long, and I just mamish don't want to do it anymore. And stop. Finished. You don't make an announcement to everybody. Listen, I'm about tshuva. I know that every day I used to insult 10 people. Now I'm doing tshuva. From now on, for the next week, I'll insult only 9 people a day, and then the week after, I'll only insult 8 people a day. Certain things you just gotta bless you. See, she sneezed on the truth.
Needs to be anchored in what?
What I mean is that you can. There are various practices, like that you would need to do. But for example, let's say one day you have this great inspiration that you're going to give tzedakah, right? So, and you go out and give a lot of tzedakah, okay? But if you don't anchor it in the sense that make it a daily practice, and you're just going to wait for that tremendous inspiration each time, so then you haven't really changed in that respect. Right? So in order to acquire ownership of it, so to speak, right? It needs to be anchored. You got to do things to maintain it. Right? Even in bodybuilding or things like that, right, and so on. Or in diet, there's like there's a certain you like, for example, let's say somebody does. We got all these health nuts sitting over here, Bernie. I don't know what to do with them, but there are people. Like this guy, you must have been on a juice diet sometime. And you live in Boulder, right?
I live in Boulder.
Yeah, and he must have been on a juicing diet. Okay.
I'm tired from the wedding last night.
I'm not complaining. I'm just using what if you need a minion in Boulder, go to the parking lot of Whole Foods.
Very true.
Okay. Anyway, the busiest place in Boulder is the parking lot of Whole Foods. There's no place in Boulder that's as busy as that parking lot. True?
Very true.
Right? Everybody's into health food today. Everything is health, Okay.
Yeah.
Poor guys from Manhattan. Anyway. Okay.
That's okay. That's the busiest one too. The one in the circle.
Okay. But it's in the basement. Then.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the point is this. So sometimes people go on a juicing diet, right? A detox juicing diet. A cleansing diet, right? So you go on this juice diet, and you cleanse out your kishkis, okay? But you don't stay on that for the rest of your life. Then you got to do something that you would call maintenance, right? But you go back to living, right? You go on a retreat, a spiritual retreat. You got to come back home at some time.
Sometimes.
Okay?
I've been spot for a while. We'll see.
No.
That's a great example.
People
There
do go there.
you go.
People do go there for their spiritual punch.
I know people who have lost track of time. I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen you in 4 months. What, really? Hasn't it just been like a few weeks?
I just
No,
came here
it's been 4
yesterday.
months.
I just came here yesterday though. What?
Eventually, I'll come down from my mountain to drag me.
Right.
So
Okay.
you want to go up there.
But the point is,
Absolutely.
okay. So, but the point is that we want to maintain it. You understand? In other words, whatever. Like we learned something now, right? Can't you see? Everybody's totally inspired, right? Okay, Baruch
You
Hashem.
need consistency.
And so it's one thing, like the inspiration in the language of the prophet, right? Yechezkel says, "V'hamalachim," in his vision, "V'hamalachim ratzo v'shav." Okay, shav. So he saw the angels rushing forth and coming back. Okay, so ratzo is inspiration, and shav is application. You understand? So you got inspired. It's wonderful, but you need to anchor it. You need to apply it. If you don't apply it, so the inspiration came and the inspiration is gone. Like the wind. Understand? It just comes and it goes. Okay? But if you have the inspiration and you actually apply it, then you that's what I mean by anchoring. Okay? So there was this psychologist whose specialty was in helping people who stuttered, and he had this technique. Like, people would come, and his name was Zilbergold, and he realized that there's something wrong with his technique, because he managed that the client would come and spend an hour with him and mamish like spoken without stuttering. But then when the guy was leaving the office, he put his hand on the door handle and he'd say, so, when's my next appointment? You know what I mean? So he had a great technique that worked inside his office, right? But he needed to perfect it so that it worked outside his office too. Right? So that's like the inspiration and the application. In other words, the anchoring, okay? So let's do this story quickly. סיפר לי הרב פרופסור ריצ'י מחסידי אמשנוב סיפור נפלא. Dr. Josh Ritchie lives here in Ramot. He's got an institute called Refuah. Have you heard of him? Trains counselors and so on. And so he was back in LA, he was a professor of medicine. And he became an Amshnover Chassid. He once told me that, I read it, that this is not the present Amshnover Rebbe, but the previous one. So the Amshnover Rebbe made a deal with him. He says, you teach me medicine, and I'll teach you Torah. And after 2 weeks, Professor Ritchie had nothing left to teach the Amshnover Rebbe. He got the whole chachma of medicine in 2 weeks. Anyway, so he says, Pam achat haya esel Rabbi HaKadosh Rabbi Meir ol Amshnover, that's the previous Amshnover Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, Chassid Shikor. He had his chassid who was a drunkard. V'lama haya shikor? Why was he a drunkard? Hu haya Yehudi Chasidi mechubad. He was actually a respected Hasidic Jew. Bal mishpacha gedola v'yeladim mevugarim. He had a nice big family, grown-up children. V'pitom pashat et haregel. And never he went bankrupt. Hu lo haya yachol lizbol zot, and he couldn't take his failure. He couldn't tolerate his failure. V'lachen itzchil lishtot l'shocha, and he became mamish an alcoholic. Misiba kol shehi. So for some reason, he came to the Yamshin Rebbe. May the memory of the tzaddik be a blessing. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. Slowly he walked up the stairs to the Rebbe's apartment. הרב פרופסור ריצ'י עמד שם וחיכה לראות איך ייפול הדבר. And somehow or other Josh was there, and he wanted to see what's going to happen. החסיד נראה שבור לגמרי, the chassid looked like he was completely broken. הוא הרגיש גועל מעצמו, he was disgusted with himself. מכל מה שעבר עליו and everything that happened to him, וכך נכנס אל הרבי, and that's how he entered to the Rebbe's room. שעתיים לאחר מכן, 2 hours later, החסיד השיכור הזה יצא מאת הרבי מימשנו.
Wait, you missed the line.
Oh, הרבי, sorry. הרבי העניק, actually very important line.
Okay.
הרבי העניק לו ביטחון עצמי, כבוד ואהבה. The Rebbe didn't tell him off, but rather he gave him so much honor and love that he restored his self-confidence. שעתיים לאחר מכן, 2 hours later, החסיד השיכור הזה יצא מאת הרבי מימשנו זכר צדיק לברכה, וכולו זורח. He came out from that meeting 2 hours later and he's shining. שבת לאחר מכן הרבי נתן לו כפות יפה לכבוד שבת, שטריימל ואבנית משי, the following Shabbos, the Rebbe gave him a new kaftan and in honor of Shabbos and a shtreimel and a gartel. רבי מימשנוב הרים את החסיד הזה תקף ומיד על רום המעלה. What the Amshinov Rebbe did is that he lifted up this man from the pits, like Mamish lifted him up right away. Understand? So, and then in another sefer of Shlomo tells the story about this professor who had become a drunkard. And his friends decided they can't just let him be in the gutter. His colleagues, they brought him, they cleaned him up, brought him a new suit, gave him his job back, and the next day he was supposed to give a lecture, and he doesn't show up for his lecture. They go to he was staying in a hotel, they go to the hotel, and the guy's lying there drunk out of his mind. And they said, come on. He says, I can't do it. He didn't believe that he could change. Right? Now, the first step in AA, anybody know? Huh? Admitting that you can't do it by yourself, that you need help. Right? And so actually, in a certain sense, the big problem before, in other words, one of the big issues very often is our pride that doesn't help, that doesn't allow us to admit that we need help. We have to be able to admit, I can't do it myself, I need help. Right? And some people don't ever ask for help because they can't face the reality that I should ask somebody for help, right? They're stuck in that. They're stuck in that. They're stuck in their idea of themselves that I can't find. I don't need to ask anybody for help. Only failures ask people for help, right? And that's the biggest tragedy. They need help, and they can't ask for help. Right? They can't admit that it's okay to ask someone for help. That's a big issue, right? So the important thing is mamish, to know that you can change. Doesn't mean that you have to change your whole personality. Like, you don't have to go to, you don't have to be bleached and ironed and so on. You just got to know how to use the various aspects of your personality, because every personality trait, every negative personality trait also has a positive side to it. Once the Baal Shem Tov came to a certain town, and it was time to daven mincha, and he says, he wants to have a minyan with all the thieves in town. So they went and they gathered together all the thieves, and they davened mincha, you know the story? And after mincha, the Baal Shem Tov was really happy. So the students wanted to know, like, first of all, like, why are you so happy now, and why did you want to have a minyan with all the thieves? So he says, because there was a real harsh decree on the people of this town, and heaven's gates were closed, and I needed to daven with people who know how to break in. So he gathered a minyan of thieves. This story is a lot deeper than you realize right now. Okay? I'm sure those thieves probably didn't steal again after that minyan. Okay? But he got them to daven with him, and he got them to use their skill at breaking and entering into heaven's gates. Okay? Understand? So everything has, every character trait, there's something positive that could be done. So Hashem is not saying change yourself, flip yourself inside out. But then there are certain traits that you do have to change completely. Okay. Very interesting. Everybody who knew Shlomo, right, knew that he was like a very friendly, loving person. But I found out, somebody told me that when he was a young man, he wasn't like that. He was initially a very intolerant person, which is not surprising, because people who are highly gifted and talented are usually very intolerant. When I was working back in Montreal, I was head teacher of a certain school. The kids, most of the kids who would get sent down to my office, most of all, were the smartest kids in the school. They couldn't stand sitting in class. They just couldn't stand it. And like, you know, the kid is there 10 times as smart as the teacher. They're 50 miles ahead of the teacher, and they have to sit in the desk. Yeah. But generally, people who are highly talented, in whatever field it is, for example, just yesterday, this guy who's a very talented musician and Baal Tefillah, in the Chazan, and he asked Judy, like, you know, does it bother you when you hear people playing the Shlomo song incorrectly? And she says, I feel like killing them. Okay? Because when you have an appreciation for something as to how it's really supposed to be, and you know and you appreciate the beauty of it, right? Then you don't have any tolerance for it to be anything less than that. I have a friend who told me that his father, Oliver Shalom, he knew Chazanut, you know, the music of the synagogue. He knew every great composition. And the shul that they davened in actually always had the best chazan in town. And sometimes, like, you know, like the chazan would make one mistake, one note. And he told me that his father's Shabbos, the rest of his Shabbos was ruined. He'd walk around the rest of Shabbos saying, I can't believe he did that. I can't believe he did that. You know? One note. And the guy's Shabbos was ruined. Okay. So there's certain things you got to say. You're intolerant. What is it that you're intolerant about? Use that quality for righteous indignation. Right? And Shlomo actually turned his kishkis inside out and became the most amazing tolerant person. And you have no idea. I can tell you stories of how much Shlomo had to put up with all kinds of people of all kinds of weird craziness. And just to finish off with the Parsha of the week, we have the mitzvah of bringing the first fruits to the temple. Right? And what you're doing then, it says, it doesn't say just v'lakachta mipri ha'aretz. It says v'lakachta mipri ha'adama. You shall take the first fruits of the earth. Right? You're taking something that's from the earth and you're giving it up to Hashem. And the same mitzvah, the Baal Shem Tov says, sometimes you meet a person that you just don't know how are you going to ever respect this person? This person is so low, so crass. This Yid is such a low life, and so on. Lift him up. Reconnect him to the source where he actually is connected. In Adam Kadmon, where they're all really, our souls are all coming from the same place. Understand? Get them back on their feet. You're intolerant? Use your intolerance in a positive way. Be intolerant on God's behalf in this, in that you don't allow yourself to tolerate not helping somebody. Don't allow yourself to be uncaring when you see somebody is in the gutter. You know, don't be intolerant with that. Don't be intolerant of the homeless guy. Be intolerant of the fact that society allows for thousands of people to be homeless. And do something about it. Have a good Shabbos, and we're having third meal this Shabbos. Everybody is welcome. Shabbos burning. So, Alex, did you find